Mr. John Hartwell, the athletic director for Utah State Athletics, joins us here on the Full Court Press. John, thanks for joining us. Good to have you.
Yeah, good to be here, guys. How are y'all this afternoon?
We're doing well, thanks.
Hey, quick question for you. Reports yesterday said that Boise State was looking to have fans at their games for next week's series, or at least for Game 1 against the Aggies. Did you guys fight that, or how did that process go? How did you hear about it, and what was your response?
Yeah, we were asked about it. I guess it was 2 nights ago. Well, I had a message, and then I got an email request, and as did UNLV, who was playing there this week. And at the end of the day, it wasn't about not being around fans. Our challenge, just as everybody in our league and everybody around the country is facing, it made no sense at all for us to go to Boise to play in 2 different arenas. I mean, again, we're trying to stay as protected and as much, I know that's an overused term, but in the bubble as possible. And I understand their desire to have fans, and, they were asking to play in Nampa, which obviously is a different county, different guidelines, but it made absolutely no sense to us to say, hey, we're going to go and play Wednesday night in one arena just so we can have some fans, and then we're going to go play at the Extra Mile Arena on Friday night. And we just said, I talked also to UNLV about it, and both of us just said, no, that makes no sense.
John, let me ask you, what's that relationship like with the conference on those types of discussions? Does the conference involve? Do you have discussions with the office there in Colorado Springs, or is it just kind of left up to each team to figure this out?
Well, they help to facilitate the conversations, and at the end of the day, a request like that. If it was to change, a tip time from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. or something like that, there we have a process to go through to do that, and normally no problem with stuff like that. But a total change in the venue, a week out, and a venue that has not hosted any. They've hosted some events in there since COVID began, but no collegiate events, and clearly the guidelines and restrictions are significant and different. Probably more stringent in collegiate athletics than in, say, a knife show or, some of the other things that they've had in there. We just did not think it was a good idea. We let Boise know that, as UNLV let them know that too. And so both of those games next week will be at Extra Mile Arena.
John, you got a feel for this USU men's basketball team, even the women's basketball team as well. They've had 3 games canceled now, or postponed, I should say. The men's now have had 3 games postponed. They've played 1 game in 3 weeks. How tough has it been for Craig Smith, his staff, and the players? And how can these games get made up, or can they be made up in that open week after the regular season?
Ajay, if I could sum it up, I would just say it's a grind. It's a grind on the coaching staff. It's a grind on the players. It's a grind on administration. I have spent a significant number of hours yesterday and today trying to help them find another game. We were trying to find another game to play Friday night. Preferably a home game, and we would have to play it Friday night because we have a home gymnastics meet on Saturday. But even looked at the opportunity to potentially even go on the road, and it's been a grind. Obviously doing things, 48 hours out from a game or so is tough enough, but then the COVID restrictions and, teams coming from different states and, clearly our team wants to play. When we go to play in Boise next Wednesday, that will be only our second game in a 21-day stretch. So that's, not ideal, but we'll figure it out. But at the same time, as Craig and I have had multiple conversations, and there's frustration there. Yeah, absolutely. But we, for the sake of competition, we can't risk further COVID exposure, because it's not just a team that you're playing, but hey, who has that team played in the last 48 hours as well? So it is a matrix that changes by the hour and is not easy. But at the same time, and Craig is totally focused on this, and we're all focused on this. Hey, what gives us the best opportunity to stay safe, to be successful, and it's all about making it to Indianapolis and come this time next month.
So if I ask John, what kind of percentage would you put out there on the likelihood of a game still happening this week?
I'd put it between slim and none now. If you asked me a couple hours ago, we still had a couple of things we were working on. I say slim and none. I should asterisk that because we don't know here in the next 2 hours. A lot of teams are testing literally every day what may pop up, and somebody that was scheduled for a game. Here's one, Idaho State is scheduled to play Idaho. If all of a sudden 2 hours from now, Idaho comes back and says they can't play for whatever reason, then yeah, we'll call our friends in Pocatello to see if we can't figure something out. But I just think, within a 48-hour window, it's going to be really difficult unless it's, somebody in really close proximity.
John, I know I asked you this last March, and I just wanted to follow up on it. We had asked about Craig Smith if there was a chance that we could get an extension put together. Has there been an extension put together, and for how long is that, if I may ask?
Yeah, so we put together an extension that was signed back before the new year, and really what it did is it basically, even at the end of this year, he'll have 5 more years left on his deal. It was really a 6-year deal. We really didn't, because there were so many other things going on. We really didn't publicize it, but obviously, we believe in Craig, and every day, literally, that guy amazes me. And just some dialogue between he and I are both kind of late night people, so we often have conversations via text or on phone calls. Late, 11:30, midnight, when most other sane people have gone to bed. But anyway, I sent him a text the other night just thanking him because his, being able to navigate all of this, the positivity of that guy is unbelievable. He's a guy that even if given lemons, he makes lemonade, and that's infectious. That's infectious to his staff. That's infectious to his players. That's infectious to everybody. And there's that quiet confidence. Well, I can't use the word quiet. Guys, no, that's not even realistic. But there's that confidence, and the guys, his staff believes in him. His student athletes believe in him. Even when we get down, there's never a sense of panic or anything because he handles everything in such a positive manner. And that's been great through this because it's, like I said, it's been a grind. But he's let's plow through. Even, we're on the phone 30 minutes ago, and probably at this date and hour was probably our last opportunity for Friday. Kind of fell through, and he said, "Hey, we'll figure this out. Let's go." So, obviously, not the ideal situation, but he's always let's plow through it and let's make the best of it.
USU Director of Athletics John Hartwell joins us here on The Fan. And I want to get back to something that Ajay brought up. We kind of got off on a few other things, but when it comes to that open week for basketball and trying to make up games, how does that work for Utah State? Now, 3 games that weren't on the schedule that will need to be made up. Clearly, you can't play 3 games in 1 week. So how does that work on trying to fill those games, and who ultimately decides what games get played and where?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we continue to have at least twice weekly ADs calls. The regularly scheduled days are Monday and Thursday, but we've had them more frequently since then. But I believe all 11 basketball playing athletic directors in our league and the conference office are all in agreement that the overarching philosophy has got to be, when we go to make-up games, not every game is going to be able to get made up, but we've got to make up games that give us the greatest opportunity to have the maximum number of teams advance to NCAA play. And again, nobody knows, what the outcome of those games is going to be in advance, but what makes the most sense? Does it make sense for a top 50 when there are choices to be made? And you make a great point. It's not realistic that we're going to make up 3 games in the last week of in this, that cushion week, if you will. But what games give Utah State and give the Mountain West the best opportunity to have the most teams in Indianapolis? Obviously our AQ, the automatic qualifier, goes to the winner of the tournament. But, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have a top 50 net team, which we've currently got 4 of those, to be playing somebody that's a 250 or 275 or 300 net. Winning that game home, on the road, neutral site, wherever, that's not going to do anything to move the needle. What's going to do things to move the needle is to try to make up games that are against the highest RPI teams. And quite frankly, that could change significantly over the next 10 days. So I shouldn't say we're in a holding pattern, but we collectively as the Mountain West membership kind of in a holding pattern right now. And I think as we get to the middle or towards the end of next week, you're going to see, some scenarios played out to see which ones of those games are the most important to make up.
And just as a quick follow-up to that, there will be teams in the conference who have will not have played the same number of games. So the seeding for the conference tournament itself, will that just be based on winning percentage within conference to determine the seeding and how that works?
Well, there's about a 4-page document that we have gotten that goes into the depths of those tie-breaking things, and it's not necessarily winning percentage per se, especially if you've got teams that are tied. It's a pretty elaborate formula, but it's one that I guess it may have even been before we even started conference play. So back in December sometime, that the athletic directors worked in conjunction with the league office to develop and then ultimately to give the blessing to. So, but yeah, it is, if there's 1 or 2 games difference, usually the winning percentage, in terms of total number of games played, usually that works out, decently. It's when you have a 5 or 6 game variance in the total number of games played that it could really get tricky.
Last question for me, and before we let you go, but non-basketball question here. We were seeing that gymnastics is a top 25 program. Some track and field sports are highly rated right now for Utah State. Volleyball normally happens in the fall. It's happening now. How is the athletic department handling some of these other? I mean, basketball gets highly publicized for how COVID comes into and affecting games and competition and practice. But how is it working out with some of these other sports and these other programs at Utah State Athletics?
Yeah, obviously a busy spring semester. 15 of our 16 sports are in season, if you will, in terms of competition. And the 16th being football, obviously they're busy with training. And then we'll kick off, they'll kick off spring practice here literally in about a month. I think it's March 15th. So, we test, and the NCAA has set up various levels of risk, high, moderate, and low based on the sport. Fortunately, a lot of our outside sports are moderate to lower risk. So really, basketball, men's, women's basketball, and volleyball are our, only sports that are required right now to test 3 times a week. But with all the testing going on, with all of the games and practice going on, our sports medicine staff, Mike Williams and his staff, who do an outstanding job, they don't have a whole lot of spare time, nor do our facilities guys like DJ Ekman or Doug Hoffman and his staff. So we've got a lot of moving parts right now. Knock on wood, outside of basketball and these recent 3 games, we haven't had anybody else lose competitions yet. But inevitably, and that's some of the advice that we've given to our coaches and our student athletes. You just got to kind of roll with it. Inevitably, probably every sport this spring that is competing is going to get touched by, a canceled game or a postponed game or match due to COVID, whether it's us or our opposition. It's just mathematically almost impossible for that not to happen based on, the number of infections there still are. The good news is we're trending downwards in the total numbers in Utah and in Cache Valley, and hopefully in the near future, sometime before the end of the spring semester, we can get our student athletes and our coaches vaccinated, and so I think we're trending in a positive direction. But we're not out of the woods in this yet. And if you would have told me 11 months ago when this whole thing started that we would still be in the predicament we are now, it's probably better I didn't know that.
Hey, last question for me, John, is you got a chance to celebrate Coach Hart's birthday, a little bit of a small celebration, but with you and your family. Can you talk about the impact that Coach Hart's had? I know that they don't have the record she was open for, but the impact she's had, at least in a positive way, upon these players.
Yeah, you talk about positive energy, and it's almost a trifecta in the Estes facility with Rob and volleyball and Craig and men's basketball and obviously Kayla. All 3 of those coaches, high energy, highly positive. And again, our volleyball team in 2 matches against Wyoming last weekend. In that first match on Friday against a Wyoming team that has finished, second in our league. I think the last 2 years really good. And our volleyball team came out and played really well. Did not get the end result they wanted, but you can see them trending in the positive direction, as you can with women's basketball. And that's part of the job as an athletic director and administrator, especially when you have a first-time head coach that is so, and they're so competitive and so driven, and that's part of the reason why they've been successful as an assistant coach, and I know they'll be successful as a head coach. You just got to sometimes, love them up a little bit and tell them, hey, don't worry about it. It's trending in the right direction. And so, that's all part of it. But, both Kayla and Rob doing a great job. Yeah, Kayla's birthday is today, and they were leaving today to go to Wyoming. And, being a South Louisiana Cajun, and my wife makes some of the best gumbo on the planet. She cooked gumbo, and we had some king cake, since next Tuesday is Mardi Gras Tuesday. We had a king cake flown in from New Orleans. So, yeah, she got a little down home.
That's awesome.
Mr. Hartwell, we thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate you. Best wishes and stay safe.
Guys, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.